From today onwards, we will be starting a part of the soil testing and report writing, which is a part of the third unit. So there are two domains of field testing as far as soil is concerned. That is the actual practical field testing corresponding to the design of the foundations. And the second one is the laboratory testing of the soil samples. The reason being that not all the parameters are required for the design of the foundations. So certain parameters are not into the civil engineering domain purely, but still we conduct those laboratory tests into the laboratory for finding out different parameters of the soil specimens. So from here we will start discussing broadly the concept of different tests which will be required in the examination. Because in the examination you will not be asked to write the full test procedure or interpretation. Concisely it will be required that what is the concept, where it is required, what is its significance, what is the procedure, and it will totally be 7 to 8 lines that you are supposed to explain that particular test. So field test for foundation design. Recommendations involves numerous tests. In situ testing includes core cutter test, sand placement test, sand penetration test, cone penetration test, vein shear test, plate bearing test, pressure meter test. Because all these tests uh, cannot be performed. These are related to the in situ conditions of the test. Whatever the existing parameters such as compressive strength or the bearing capacity of the soil, that can only be found out onto the site. It cannot be found out in the laboratory. It is obvious that for a certain project, not all tests are necessary. That is what I told you. That what is the parameter that we are thinking that we want that particular parameter. C5, coefficient of friction. These there are various tests which are required. They also depend upon the type of structure we are going to construct. Suppose you want to construct a bridge on the river. So constructing a bridge on the river will require a different kind of parameters for the soil conditions existing on the site. So depending upon the project, depending upon the actual the loading coming onto the civil infrastructure decides. That is why not all are necessary. For shallow foundations, in situ testing is relatively easy. शैलो फाउंडेशंस में हमें पता है कि सैंपल को एक्सट्रैक्ट करना इजी होता है एज कंपेयर टू डीप फाउंडेशंस where we have to use the SPT, standard penetration test. For deep foundations, such piles, piers, field tests often expensive and not reliable because we take the sample from down beneath, let us say 10 meters deep the earth surface. So 10 meters deep the sample. By the time that sample reaches the surface, it is already disintegrated sample. तो हमें ये ध्यान में रखना पड़ता है कि सैंपल आप अगर कोर कटर से निकाल रहे हो, सैंपल शुड नॉट डिसइंटीग्रेट. So this is the first one, that is penetration resistance test. We will try to cover maximum in a minimum time, the standard test and some special tests. Oldest penetration resistance test. In performing this particular test, The split spoon sampler. Split spoon sampler is a sampler which goes beneath down the surface, and it collects the sample and it bring it to the surface. Let us read and understand. To take the soil samples is utilized. Split spoon is driven into the ground by means of a hammer falling free height of 30 inches, that is approximately 3 feet. A hammer is used to hammer the, let us see if we are having a figure of it. No, we are not having the figure. So I will share with you the figure for that. The number of blows N necessary to produce a penetration of 12 inches is regarded as the penetration resistance. That means आपने split spoon sampler नीचे डाला, अर्थ सरफेस पे रखा, अब आपने हैमर से उसको ब्लोज दिए, which is having a particular weight. That hammer is having a particular weight of 140 lb. So the number of blows required, n is the number of blows in capital. This n number of blows is will there will be fixed n number of blows which will take the split spoon sampler to 1 foot depth. Now this n number of blows is also important for tabulating the data, record में रखने के लिए. And when you let us say then for next 1 foot, how many number of blows were required for 24 inches of penetration? Then next 1 foot, that is up to, you can say 2.5 feet. What was the n number of blows which were required to penetrate next 6 inches for the split spoon sampler to enter the 30th inch? That will give some idea upon the existing characteristics of the soil 30 inches below the earth surface. To avoid seating errors, the blows for the first 6 inches of penetration are not taken into account. Those required to increase the penetration of 12 inches constitute the n values. So we discard the first 6 inches. And this is also commonly called as blow count. This is called as blow count. The following should be considered in performing the penetration test. Depth factor, because of the greater confinement caused by increasing overburden pressure in the design of spread footings. A correction is made corresponding to that. So the depth at which it is made, suppose we require a value at 18 inches. So that will affect the values. Then next is water table. If the penetration is considered, as I have given you an example of the construction of the bridge. So construction of bridge, let us say we want to do the testing not for the abutment, which is at the extreme end. We want to do the testing for the pier, which is in between the river. So there we will have to stop the water for the soil sample collection, but you know it will be already a saturated soil whose properties which we will be requiring. So that will interfere with the results. Driving conditions, barrel should not be packed by over driving, since at this port the soil acts against the sides of the barrel. So whatever hammering you are going to give, that should be considered. Maximum we require undisturbed sample. So we can use the California sampler. The test indicate the results are comestible with the exception of very soft soil. So for very soft soil, N will be coming close to 4. So if your split spoon sampler is reaching 12 inches with the 4 number of blowers, that will broadly come into the category of soft soil. And if it is taking 30 number of blows to enter the soil strata for 12 inches, then it will be closely coming to the category of very stiff or dense soil. So whatever sample is extracted from the ground below, that will be taken into the laboratory, and some of the properties are going to be evaluated into the laboratory. What is going to be the friction coefficient coming out? That will be checked into the laboratory. What is going to be the cohesion value, that is C, phi, all these parameters, angle of resistance of the friction, all these parameters are found out in laboratory. So this is, we can say this is so with the number of blows, we can categorize a soil in very loose, medium, dense, and very dense. Perfect. Always remember, it is written here, it is perfect. So it is for the blows are for the 12 inches. This is for sands and this is for clays. Now you can see for a sand, for reaching 12 inches, it will take 10 to 30 number of blows. Whereas in clay, you can see it will take 4 to 8 blows to reach 12 inches. That means in clay it is easy for split spoon sampler to reach 12 inches. However, the value which we are getting is more reliable in case of clay because we get the actual behavior. So it is where we want to use the values for clay, where you actually know that such as in Maharashtra and other regions where the clay is very dominant. So where you want to have the N value corresponding to clay only, where you can use the right side of the chart, where you want to use for sand, such as NCR region, New Delhi capital region, close to Yamuna and other places. So where you actually know our soil is a soft soil, there you will be doing the testing accordingly and whatever data you are going to collect. Sand is reliable enough to permit the use of N value in foundation design. So if you are using the left hand side, it will be a conservative design, but it can be used for the design of the foundations. So there are some terminologies. Pressure meter test is a device developed by Minard in 1950 for the purpose of measuring in situ strength and compressibility. In situ strength uh, and compressibility both directly or indirectly correlates with the compressive strength, or we can say the bearing capacity of the soil. The probe is made up for a measuring cell with a guard cell above and below enclosed in a rubber membrane. The membrane is inflated using water under the applied carbon dioxide pressure. The pressure and volume readings are taken continuously. So whatever pressure is required for an inflated cell, that will directly give a characterization. It is plotted from which shear strength and strain characteristics जितना डिस्प्लेसमेंट आपके सेल का हो रहा है आफ्टर यू आर इन्फ्लेटिंग इट, एंड दैट विल गिव अस डायरेक्टली इन द लोड सेल द लोड अप्लाइड. एंड जो सैंपल में दैट इज अगर सॉयल में जो स्ट्रेन आ रहा है, जो डिफॉर्मेशन आ रहा है, दैट विल बी ऑल्सो कैलकुलेटेड. सो दैट विल गिव अस द stress strain curve, and from there we can evaluate the compressibility of the soil easily. Then we have got cone penetration test. It is very important test as far as in situ soil testing is considered. It is a static penetration test in which the cone is pushed. Now this cone is actually of two types. This cone is actually of, rather I should not say it is of two types. The method of cone penetration test is of two types, that is static and dynamic. But as far as static is concerned, the instrument used can be varying of 2 to 3 types. But in dynamic test, the instrument used is of one type because we cannot take chances. And in dynamic loading, it is very easy for an instrument to fail. So the cone is pushed rather than driven into the soil. So what we were doing into split spoon sampler, we were deriving the inside the soil the split spoon sampler by hammering it from above. Whereas in cone penetration test, we are compressing that particular cone into the soil. We are not giving impact to the instrument. We are giving a kind of pressure to the instrument. The cone has an apex angle of 60 degree. So this angle is 60 degree. This is a cone which is at the end of the shaft, and their diameters, and the C1B is drive cone on a drill rod. Then the C1 is dynamic cone. You can see we have got a difference here. And this is a straight one. So when this is going to go down, the soil displaced from here will already be a loose soil when it will be transferred from, it will be coming from here to here. So it will become a little bit of a different kind. The cone is pushed by the rod at the rate of 2 centimeter per second. The cone resistance is the force required. This is responsible for finding out the parameters that we require. The cone resistance is the force required to advance the cone divided by the base area. So whatever force which is coming into the instrument for the cone to advance, again for per meter length, or you can say per foot length, although it depends upon that how much depth we want to go. Usually it is 10 to 20 meters for, let us say, pile foundation or any other kind of deep foundation. So if we want to evaluate the strata for 20 meters, we cannot go for 1 foot. We assume that soil strata is changing per 1 meter. So we are going to take the samples for per 1 meter. One sample for 1 meter, and that is why whatever force required is required to be evaluated, that is also going to vary from 0 meter to 1 meter. Then 1 meter to 2 meter, that will be transferred into in the form of a graph. And from there we can take the readings. The arrangement is known as the Dutch cone. That is, the total arrangement is called as the Dutch cone. When the tip incorporates a friction sleeve, the base area is this much. The local side friction is then measured as the frictional resistance per unit area on the friction sleeve. So this is a method that if you are attaching this particular friction sleeve to the instrument, another parameter which is frictional resistance can also be evaluated. It is reliable for both sand and silt. So it is limited for the clay. We are not, most of the time, not going to use it for stiff clay. Plate bearing test, this most of us know. Sometimes we used to do it in first year or in second year. So it is, let us figure 3.5. This is called as plate load test. And we want the values here at this particular level. So we construct a platform till here. This is a platform which is being constructed. This is of structural steel, as you can see. And here we are having the dial gauge to record the deflection. And we have got hydraulic jack to evaluate the force or the load into the load cell. I will again, let me just put the setup in steel. Load cell for evaluating load applied. dial gauge for deflection. Bearing capacity evaluation. So as we continue to put the load here in the form of sacks filled up of sand, we have got multiple sacks, number of sacks, and बोरी में हम रेत भरते हैं और बहुत सारे we each sack contains 50 kg. So that sand is filled up and we continue to put the load in the form of sacks. So, and according to that, the dial gauge starts showing the reading corresponding to the deflection, and the load is also evaluated. So let us go back and read it out. The object of the plate loading test is to obtain the load settlement curve. That for how much load, what is the deflection we are getting into the strata. For soil with relatively high bearing capacity, the load required to complete the curve is often exceeding high. The cost of such testing is unjustified. It requires a higher cost. Under certain circumstances, where the test procedures are difficult to apply, that is, but it gives the exact results. After you have done the plate load test on the site, there is no requirement of any other test to confirm the bearing capacity of that soil. Without errors. So if your results are being taken without errors, this is the procedure. A pit is excavated to the required depth. Steel plate set firmly on the soil. Static load is then applied to the plate in a series of increments, and the amount and rate of settlement is measured. Loading is continued until the soil under the plate yields. That means again, the soil is not resisting the load. Then we have got another category field test for hydraulic structures. As I've told that it is quite different and difficult to conduct tests for hydraulic structures. So here we can see we are having a load here, and here we are having settlement. That is the curve on the sides. This is how plate bearing test is being done. So this is, you can see this is actually a very good system. Although if we have done in our college and in those days, so it used to be a structure, a temporary structure where we used to have a girder, we used to have a plate, horizontal member just like a slab, and we continue to put the sacks onto the structure. But here in the figure you can see it is a moving vehicle. So wherever you want to do the testing, It is for a large project. You can see it is having a wheels. Most commonly in India, you will see this type of vehicle will not be available. It is available only for very big projects where hundreds of acres of the land has to be coming under the testing. So you have done testing at one place to find out the bearing capacity of the soil at one place. Then you have moved 5 kilometers ahead to check the bearing capacity of the soil at that particular space. So in that case, it becomes easy to remove the test apparatus from one side and move it on the wheels and locate it on the other side. Now here the loading is being put here in the form of the sand, not using the any other sacks and all. And we are having a steel girder arrangement here. And all the test setup is there, which is giving the reading in the form of the load pressure cell, even in the dial cage. This is for the permeability. This test is sometimes also carried out for the concrete technology laboratories. Then we have got Packer test. A Packer test can be made both below and above the water table. Pressure testing. It is actually a good test, but it is not commonly used test. However, if we say vane shear test, it is a commonly used test for the same purpose. In situ drain shear strength of cells. So if we want to evaluate the shear strength, because there are two types of strength, bearing capacity is more or less is a vertical static capacity, and shear strength is a lateral load resisting capacity, which is very dominant in earthquakes. What type of load is an earthquake load? What type of load is an earthquake load? How does earthquake come into the structures? No answers? How does earthquake load is transferred to the structures? So earthquake load is transferred. It is called as peak ground acceleration. So soil strata beneath the structure is having acceleration by the waves of earthquake. So what is going to happen? The soil strata will be having the acceleration, and the movement in soil is going to be into the lateral direction. It is not vertical, it is lateral. That is the horizontal acceleration. So shear strength of the soil becomes dominant in evaluating the response of the soil as well as response of the structure. That is why the shear strength of the soil is very important. So vane shear test is used for that purpose. So from here onwards, we will discuss in the next lecture